Nothing in the Lou Brydges Show is intended to be legal analysis, legal advice, or legal recommendations that would be applicable to your particular situation. Everyone in foreclosure or underwater with their mortgage are encouraged to seek legal counsel for a review of your specific situation. Welcome to the weekly broadcast of the Lou Brydges Show, telling the truth about the foreclosure crisis and the greatest financial crime spree in history. Are you in foreclosure, at risk of foreclosure, or underwater with your mortgage? Do you know someone who is? Every week on this show, you'll get real answers from a real attorney. Lou Brydges will explain options in the foreclosure process. He'll talk about defective mortgages, mortgage restructuring, loan modification, short sale negotiation, and discuss what to look for when choosing a foreclosure defense attorney. Lou is an experienced foreclosure defense lawyer on the front lines of mortgage defense and litigation. Lou is dedicated to helping you keep your property. And now, it's time for the Lou Brydges Show and the truth about foreclosure. Here's your host, Lou Brydges.
Good morning, Chicago. I have my wingman, Mike Main, and my producer, Debbie Schreiber.
Hello, Chicagoland, and Debbie's waving over there.
Here's today, and we have broke 400. We've on the Facebook page. We're increasing the numbers. Mike wants to get in the announcements on the Facebook page at the very start.
Facebook.com/The Lou Brydges Show. Please join us there.
Now, on the Facebook page, we've got a lot of links to other information, a lot of videos. Please watch this. Senator Elizabeth Warren examining the representatives from the Federal Reserve and the Office of Comptroller of the Currency.
You'll also be able to listen to this show after we are live, and then you can listen to all the past shows as well.
Yes, and it's really quite well done. I mean, Mike does a great job in adding all the links, and I'm adding a narrative comment now and then, and we're getting narrative comment from around the globe, but we're trying to make it a clearinghouse for all the websites and everything related around the country, which there are hundreds now. Starting with always start with Living Lies. Neil Garfield was the founding father of foreclosure defense and one of the original people who discovered all the crimes being committed by the bank, the mortgage industry, the Wall Street investment banks, and the major banks that service mortgages in this country. Which brings me up to the Thomas Jefferson quote that we must include in every show. If the American people, Thomas Jefferson warned us back in 1802, and I think he was speaking to this very, right here, right now, this current generation of Americans. If you ever allow private banks to control the issue of currency, first by inflation and deflation, then those banks and the corporations that will grow up around them will deprive you of all your property until your children wake up homeless on the continent your forefathers conquered. Now, I paraphrased a little bit. He said, the American people, I'm saying you, because you are the American people. And this show is a call to arms among many others around the country, a sort of a grassroots movement, because it is becoming indisputably clear to all but the most casual observer, and there's no longer any defending it. The major banks in this country have gotten out of control. And you see, the thing is most of all the money other than the money in your pocket right now. I call it the chump change in your pocket. Not that you're a chump, but the change in your pocket. All the money except for that is in banks. And when you allow banks to do things other than banking, which is to maintain deposits, pay depositors, make loans pursuant to guidelines established by the federal regulations and the the loan committee of the bank, that is run by a local board of directors, to clear checks, to facilitate the transfers of money through bills of lading and things of that nature, commercial paper of that nature. That's banking, and that's all banks should be allowed to do. Because when banks can start engaging in other business enterprises, investing, they can immediately control markets because they have 99 9/10% of the money. Other than the change in your pocket, all people's money, of everybody, of every institution, of every benefit fund, pension fund, your money, all but the change in your pocket is deposited into a bank. Now, if you allow those who run the bank to do anything other than to just hold on to that money and clear it and make the loans in accordance with the federal guidelines, if you allow them to engage in commerce, which is what we've done when we appealed the Glass-Steagall Act and that other statute in the 1990s, when you allow them to engage in business like anything else, they are for-profit corporations, and they will make a profit because corporations are It's not wrong. It's just corporations are soulless creatures. They're fictions.
They have one fiduciary responsibility.
To shareholders to make a profit. They are not not-for-profits. They are not eleemosynary institutions. They are for-profits. And when they can use all of our money, they are going to manipulate markets, as they did with the housing market, driving up the cost of American residential real estate by 131% over a 10-year period. That creates $5.5 trillion of capital that they can bundle and package and sell off to the pension funds. And they did so in a manner that it violated federal regulations, everything from, and they induced a lot of others to engage in less than honorable activity. A lot of the mortgage brokers, we see a lot of loans. The homeowners turned over all of their paperwork to the mortgage originator, the broker, who's going to get a huge commission upon closing the loan. And the loans show that they made X dollars for the past 3 years. I mean, they turned in their tax returns, their pay stubs, and everything. And the application, which is shoved in front of the homeowner at the closing and said, here, sign here, along with 50 other documents, the mortgage broker has put in a number that is unrelated to what the homeowner disclosed as their income. Now, the application is a 20, 30-page document. You're signing 50 documents at the closing. You don't look through it. Yes, you should, but nobody does. And attorneys, the attorneys don't look through it. We see more loans in which, how could this be that the income on the application is 150? I never put that in there. I know you didn't, because you gave them tax returns that showed your income was something else. The mortgage brokers are getting a commission for producing bad loans, because the way the whole scam worked is you get one good loan and you got 7 tranches of bad loans. But you combine every one good loan with 7 bad loans and you get AAA paper, because the rating agencies, it's very complicated, but they do what's called blending, and there's going to be so many defaults of this type of loan. And anyway, but the whole thing was a scam. And it was all started with doing anything possible to induce the homeowner to sign a note and mortgage. And then all the transfers of the notes and mortgage were not done in accordance with our Conveyances Act, Recorders Act, or Notaries Act. And we, the people of the state of Illinois, in our Constitution, established and ordained a Recorder of Deeds office to keep track of the various interests in real estate, the easements, the leases.
Virtually every other state in the nation as
did every other state in the country as well. Well, what's coming out in the courts now is, number one, is you fraudulently induced the loan. You deceptively induced the loan. You induced the originator to suborn perjury by the appraiser, essentially, to overappraise it. The real estate brokers are going along with it because their commissions are, and they are not bad people. They're just doing what, hey, if that's what Wall Street or the money, people that control the money want to. But see, it all comes down to when you allow them to have a for-profit incentive in producing bad loans, they will produce bad loans and make a profit doing it because they're the servicer. Yeah, you put cheese in front of a mouse and the mouse is going to eat the cheese. And, but now it's all coming out. We're going to, in the next segment, I am going to spend the entire segment going through the news reports from the past weeks of all the indictment, not criminal indictments, but all the enforcement actions, the regulatory actions, and all the, there are criminal charges pending, but criminal charges are so difficult to prove. And
I think they could do a little better job than they've done so far.
Well, Eric Holderman is certainly, it's been, if there has been a bigger disappointment as a U.S. Attorney General than Eric Holder, let me know who that is, because I don't think in the history of the country we've had a more ineffective, incompetent Attorney General than Eric Holder.
Well, and I'm sorry, and I want to step back just a second. When you went and you talked about stopforeclosurefraud.com, and you talked about
Living Lies,
you talked about him being the grandfather of foreclosure defense, but it's not just about foreclosure defense.
It's more about foreclosure. It's about the land rights, and it's about the criminal activity being undertaken by the major banks in this country by being allowed to use our money to engage in for-profit enterprises. Now, you're not making a profit for you. They're making a profit for the insiders. And you say, well, there's shareholders, and that could be regular folks. Most of the shares are held by institutions. And the institutions, the pension funds and the like, and they're controlled by the same interlocking directorships. So when you have a situation like that, you create this financial elite that are in charge of all the big institutions, the Wall Street investment banks, let's start naming names. Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns,
JP Morgan
Chase, Citi, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, Deutsche Bank, one of these German outfits and it's just, these are, I can say this on the air without any fear. They are all engaged in a series of criminal, unlawful activity. And pervasive. Not just once in a while you step over the bounds. That's going to happen. I speed on occasion. I got a speeding ticket the other day. And, and I'm a law-abiding citizen, and it's not the first one I've had.
Wish I could say I hadn't joined you on getting those, but
all right. Now we're going to break here but please stick with us. We've got some the news reports we're going to go through in the next segment will blow your mind. I mean, some of these things, and this is just in one week, and it's over and over and over. But America is starting to stand up and take notice. We're going to take back this country. We are not going to turn it over.
And give us a call, 224-513-1231, and visit facebook.com/The Lou Brydges Show.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Lou Brydges Show with Louis Brydges, one of Chicago's leading foreclosure defense attorneys. Here's Lou to tell you what to look for when hiring a foreclosure defense attorney and how to avoid being conned on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back to the Lou Brydges Show. I'm really in an upbeat mood because there's so much that's going on now. That summer's over in September. Those of you who are regular listeners to the show, and I'm amazed at how many we have, contact us and everything, you noticed that I was in kind of a down period there during August. I was getting frustrated. I was perhaps even losing faith. And there's no reason to lose faith because we do have this, the sword of Excalibur, the truth on our side. And then one night, as fate would have it, I was late at night, and I don't watch television at all, hardly ever. I mean, watch the public television and nightly business report. And I turned on and I saw that, the old movie, The Verdict, with Paul Newman, and I've read a couple segments, and sometimes we're just lost, and I'll read it again on another show in the future. But it kind of restored my faith, and now I'm starting to see the reports from around the country and the various sources that there's more and more coming out about all the fraud and illegal activity by the banks and the foreclosure. I'm going to start to go some of the news reports and then some of the cases around the country in the past couple of weeks. And Adam Levitin is all of a sudden back in I don't know if he took the summer off or what, but he testified before Congress, and he basically said that the banks are committing a fraud upon the courts of this country en masse. I mean, throughout. And now the judges no longer have an excuse. You got to start to listen to these defense attorneys like myself and all the others, because you can no longer deny. You can no longer just write us off as, oh, come on, that's preposterous. That can't be. These are major institutions. They couldn't possibly engage in such activity. The chances are far greater than not that they have. Some estimates are as many as 90% of the foreclosures that have been accomplished in this country in the past 4 years have based on fraudulent documents, forged documents, fabricated documents, gaps in the chain of title, and otherwise should not have been accomplished. 90% of 4 million would be 3,600,000 families have been wrongfully dispossessed of their homes, their children taken out of their schools, and the judges need to start listening. Now, they are in some places, even in Cook County. Even in Cook County, the judges are now starting to judge the cases based on the merits rather than just rubber stamp the foreclosures as they did for so long. New York to sue Wells Fargo over violations of the mortgage settlement agreement. Eric Schneiderman's back in the word here. I won't go through the whole story. Now, here's the big news. Now, here's the thing that the judges need to understand. We're not saying there's no note or mortgage. We're not asking anybody to get a home free and clear, but you allow our affirmative defenses. You force them to respond to discovery. You force them to produce the original note, the transfers, good transfers, not signed by the plaintiff's attorneys on the eve of filing the lawsuit. And all of a sudden, you will clear your docket a lot faster. Ironically, by going with truth and justice rather than rubbing stamping foreclosures, and the effort to rubber stamp foreclosures, the only justifiable means, well, we got to clear our docket. We're just overwhelmed. Well, actually, you want to clear your docket? You allow the defenses, because then the banks settle, as they do. J.P. Morgan, here's the big news of the past week. J.P. Morgan said to be close to a deal on mortgages. They've already agreed to provide $4 billion in relief for struggling homeowners. This will likely be reduction of the size of their mortgages and refinancing. What we've been saying all along, restructuring.
Brand new settlement.
We got over 250 current clients now. We've had probably over 500 over the time, and we've resulted in a lot of settlements and things, but every one of the 250 clients we've been saying, we raise the defenses, we make it So they spin their wheels, they can't foreclose, and we at the same time are applying for a modification with restructuring. Well, about 20% of that, probably 20 to 30% of the 250 are J.P. Morgan, and there's billions of dollars, $4 billion initially. They've offered $4 billion initially to set aside to restructure. They weren't actually going to pay $4 billion. They're going to give $4 billion in principal reduction, which makes sense because even if you foreclose, I don't care if the note is $3 million, $300,000, or $300 million. The house is worth $150,000. You're not going to ever collect more than that. All right. So you had a phony appraiser. You induced the originator. So and it's not even your money.
Not to mention they've already made the money that they needed.
And you were paid by the credit default swap, the derivative. J.P. Morgan Chase may settle with a number of agencies. J.P. Morgan Chase has just about broken the record, I believe. They've got just about every federal and state agency in every state they do business investigating them and having actions against them. And that Federal Energy Commission is going after them.
$11 billion is going to be the largest settlement ever.
And it's just the start. Now, there's an exclusive that just came out from Reuters on Monday. A J.P. Morgan settlement is complicated by the Washington Mutual sources. Well, this is ironic because one of my great sources to what all the information about whatever happened is an unnamed source that will always remain unsourced, but used to work for Washington Mutual, and then she later went with Wells Fargo. But Washington Mutual loans, for the period they were making them, were all, the incentives they were giving, just give us a note and mortgage. We don't care if the homeowner is going to pay back. We don't care if they can pay back. We don't care if the appraisal is overpraised the house by $300,000. The more, the better. Just get us a note.
They had no skin in the game,
and they never bothered because once they got the commission, and once they got they never bothered to actually transfer the mortgages into the trust properly. All they did was register it with MERS. They never did the transfers. And these trusts are static trusts. Once they close, they're open and they collect 2,500 mortgages and then they close. This doesn't mean there's not a note of mortgage, but it means that the plaintiff, for whom the bank is filing suit as the servicer, every bank, major bank, when they file suit to foreclose on a mortgage, they're the servicer. They don't own the mortgage. They can sue as the servicer, as the agent. Now they sue in the name of the trust a lot more than they used to. But the thing is, if the trust doesn't own the mortgage, and your service agreements with the trust, and you've been collecting money, and now you're suing to foreclose, you have been collecting a debt, and you're suing to foreclose to collect a debt that you don't have any authority to collect, because your principal doesn't own the mortgage. Wow. You know what that means? Forget about defense. The law, you can't foreclose, but there's a thing called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You can't collect debts that you have no authority to collect. And if you do, then the party from whom you collected them has, one, a claim for all the money they paid. Would you please give me the money back that I paid all these years on a mortgage that you don't have authority to collect because you're a servicer for a trust that doesn't own the mortgage. Oh, and by the way, the suit that you filed to foreclose, I'm entitled under the statute to recover exemplary damages, punitive damages, plus attorney's fees. Now, that traffic ticket I got the other day, I paid the fine. Paid a total of $1,000. Fine. I was speeding like over 30 miles over the speed limit. There was no one around, okay? Don't give me that look. Any of it, that's not relevant. That penalized me, all right?
Yes, what kind of damage was that? That was a punitive
1%, it was 1% to maybe a half of 1% of my salary. All right? So let's just say it's 1/10 of 1% of my salary. It would punish me. It was a $100 fine, maybe. Well, let's start at 1/10 of 1% of what J.P. Morgan made last week for punitive damages. And, the courts have to award punitive damages. You shall award. Upon establishing liability, every one of our 250 clients, we're looking into filing a counterclaim against the bank for violations and liability under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Fair Debt Credit Reporting Act, because their credit's been damaged, and the Consumer Fraud Act. Now, that is going to force, number one, a good settlement at the very minimum. A lot of our clients aren't going to want to settle when the bank offers a fair settlement. They're going to want to go for the throat, and I don't blame them. We'll advise them about their legal rights, and we will provide, as an attorney provides, we will provide them analysis, counsel, recommendations in the form of advice, And then within the bounds of the law, we will carry out their desires. But it all comes down to, okay, let me get back to the news. There's one thing I do want to talk. Tighter rules are going to make it harder to get reverse mortgages. As reverse mortgage is a strategy that we pursued for all of our clients who are over 62. I'm not finding any problems. Anybody over 62, we're able
The only problems I've heard of are the people that didn't put both people on the mortgage and then one dies. That becomes a problem.
Well, actually not, but we'll get into it. That's a very specific situation. But if you're anyone who's over 62 and you find yourself underwater, it's kind of like a short sale combined with a reverse mortgage. And if your children are okay and you didn't plan on leaving the house to their children, then it's an option that you need to pursue. And, the guy that was Fred Thompson, we contacted that outfit that he advertises for on the reverse mortgages, and they seem to be on the up and up. And we actually have placed a couple through them. And that is an option. Now, we're running out of time here, so I'm going to let Mike get the Facebook page in because we have all the information on the Facebook page. And when you come back, I'm going to tell you some stories.
Facebook.com/The Lou Brydges Show. That is Bridges with a Y. The Lou Brydges Show. 224-513-1231. You have questions? You want to know what's going on?
Do not give up your land, though. See, this is a battle over the land. It's the battle of evermore. The same battle we fought 500 years ago, we fight fighting over the land.
Brydges of the law firm Brydges & O & Associates, one of the leading foreclosure defense firms in the Chicago area, rejoins you now on the Lou Brydges Show. Here's Lou on how you might avoid foreclosure and deal with a mortgage that's underwater.
All right, I'm back. Thank you. Welcome back here. Mike's putting something in front of me. I guess there's news coming as the Chicago Tribune reports that the National Foreclosure settlement has been
being tweaked because
the bankers
settlements aren't following the rules that were set in it.
Yeah, if you've been denied a modification, we can reapply, and there's also the changed circumstances that we can reapply under. But the Chicago Tribune reports the $25 billion national mortgage foreclosure settlement is getting tweaked, I'll say, to address numerous complaints that mortgage servicers are falling short in their dealings. They've been sabotaging the whole modification process. Let me point something out to you. Wells Fargo services 7 million mortgages. If 7 million mortgages are performing, they charge about $10 per month, $70 million a month for doing what a bank should do. They open the checks, the envelopes, they clear the checks, they, take care of the bounce checks and the, insufficient funds and forward the money, less their service fee to the entity that owns the various mortgages, the trust or the federal government. About 50% are owned by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. About 50% are privately securitized. Now, if 1 million of those mortgages are in foreclosure, they charge about $300 per month for those. So that's $300 million plus the $60 million on the other $6 million that are performing. So you've gone from $70 million to $360 million in 1 month, a difference of $290 million. Allow me, for the purposes of making the math easy, to call that $300 million. Times 12 comes to $3.6 billion more in revenues. That is why they encourage people. The other big thing I want to talk about is dual tracking. There's more than one type of dual tracking. We had a client come in this week. Now, here's the situation. They are underwater in a mortgage. He's got a very expensive house, a nice house, $700,000 it's worth. Unfortunately, it was worth about $1.2 million a couple years ago, and he had a $900,000 mortgage, so he's underwater. And, it just doesn't make any sense. When you're $200,000 underwater, you're paying about $600,000 more for the mortgage than you should over the life of the mortgage, which means you're overpaying for that house by about $2,000 a month. He doesn't want to do it anymore. So he tried to get a modification. The bank wouldn't give it to him. We're reapplying for the modification. He's got changed circumstances. But in the meantime, he's talking to the bank, and she says, well, go into default and offer us a short sale on the property. The gal he's talking to at PNC. So he goes into default. They send a notice to foreclose. They file a foreclosure lawsuit. He lists the property for sale. And after 6 months, he finally gets an offer of $750,000.
A good offer.
A house is worth, according to Zillow, was worth $715,000. So he says, great. And he goes and he tenders the offer to the bank. And he says, look, I'll sell the house and you just forgive any deficiency. You can have the $750,000 and, we'll be done. And all of a sudden that gal she says, I can't call you back. I have to go outside. And she's in tears. And apparently they've been leading him along all along. They've gotten a foreclosure judgment in the lawsuit. Now, he knew the lawsuit was pending. He was never served with summons, but he had been told not to worry about the lawsuit, or he wasn't worried. He was led to believe in strong terms. I haven't had a chance to get the exact details. He assures me he was led to believe he had no idea the lawsuit was proceeding. He thought it was just a formality because he was in default. But all they had ever talked about was a short sale resolution. So now they reject a $750,000 offer and a $715,000 house. And the matter's scheduled for sale. It was scheduled for sale on Thursday. So we file. He's in my office on Tuesday. And I said, well, geez, I'm glad you didn't wait till the last minute.
Right.
So we filed an emergency motion for leave to file our appearance of counsel, quash the purported service of summons because I don't think the proof of service is good, vacate the default judgment, and stay the pending sale. Now, that motion was granted, and of course we've saved it, and now we're going to be given leave to file a responsive pleading. And we look at the damn thing, and the mortgage and note were given to an entity that no longer even exists. It was like one of these countrywide type things. I can't remember the exact name. Was it? Anyway, no, I don't know. It was one of these that doesn't exist, and I'm not going to risk saying a name of one that does exist. But like a countrywide, or a Taylor Bean Financial, one of those fly-by-night outfits that weren't so fly-by-night. And there's no transfer of the mortgage to PNC. And it actually, it's just the whole thing is like they don't have the note, they don't have this. They got it. They snuck through a default judgment, and they sneak them through a lot on these judges. And so this is a foreclosure judgment that should have been entered, and the guy could have lost his house. And by trusting them, everybody we talk to has been misled. They have this great friend in the modification department, and at the same time, the foreclosure lawsuit is proceeding. They are sandbagging you people. 99 times out of 10.
Never ignore that. Even if you don't have an attorney, go to court at least.
Go to court. And also the thing is most modifications, if you're underwater, are not good deals. You will need a modification with principal reduction, restructuring if you're underwater. Now,
join us at
don't
Facebook.
Go to a non-attorney to do the modification. They don't know. The modification involves a legal analysis, counsel, and recommendations regarding legal rights, claims, and obligations. And they have a financial interest in just getting you to agree to the modification.
We now return to the Lou Brydges Show, telling the truth about the foreclosure crisis and the greatest financial crime in history. Here's Lou Brydges, an attorney on the front lines of the ongoing battle for our land.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you Money Talks. That's the name of that song, Money Talks. And I'm going to tell you something about these con artists that are saying we can get you a modification. Yeah, anyone can get you a modification. I got a 22-year-old girl who files things, and she can get you a modification. And if she's going to get $1,500 for when she accomplishes a modification, she's going to tell you it's a damn good modification. Because she's going to get $1,500. A modification involves analysis, counsel, and recommendation regarding legal rights, obligations that you may be giving up and have. Don't go to a non-attorney for modification. And don't go to some non-attorney who says he's working with an attorney. Because they're just going to split the fee, and they're just going to get you the modification and pay and get the money from you, and it's but it's not necessarily going to be a good deal. I have more people come in and say, this modification, this isn't a good deal. Yeah, well, you could have told you that 6 months ago.
I paid somebody $2,500, or I paid somebody $5,000, and they end up with a bad deal modification that even the client doesn't want to accept.
Yeah. So anyway, you need an attorney on this. You need an attorney who knows foreclosure. You need an attorney who understands about the foreclosure, because the crime spree I talk about in the mortgage industry that was perpetrated between 1998 and 2008, it continues to this day. It continues in the modifications. It continues in the origination. It continues mostly today. It's in the courts where they're committing fraud upon the courts of our land on a massive scale. And, the judiciary is going to be examined, and you are going to be scrutinized for generations of law students are going to look back and they're going to see. But, there's a lot of judges that are really onto this. We have some very, very, very good judges in the Chancery courts in Lake and McHenry County, in DuPage County, in Will County. There are some even good ones in Cook County. And more, the appellate courts. There's an ongoing battle between the First District Appellate Court and the Second District that's going to be decided in the U.S. Illinois Supreme Court. And the Second District is basically, holding up for foreclosures based on the facts and the truth. And the First District is supporting the Cook County judges in their efforts to just do everything to just, speed them through as quickly as possible, like sausages, without regard to whether the bank actually has some rights or the homeowner. And that I can say, because
it's not the right thing for America, I'll tell you that.
It is not the right thing for a judge to do. It's I'll tell you what, when it comes down...
It's the right thing for Bank of America.
I got some solutions to the Illinois, financial crisis, and we got to cut some of these public pensions for some of these public officials that aren't doing their jobs. And because there's some people in the judiciary that just aren't earning their pension, they're not earning their salary. But for them, I would say that the vast, and it's confined now pretty much to Cook County. In fact, Cook County is about the only place in the country left where the banks are being given every benefit of every doubt on all occasions without any scrutiny. Because everywhere else you look, all the cases. I mean, the cases that we see, there must be 50 cases every week around the country where, a bank, doesn't show standing, they don't have the note, the fabricate, the robo-sign, the forged signatures, the fabricated endorsements.
Every week we go through at least
so one of the judges at Cook County said to me, well, what does it really matter? All you're going to do is extend your redemption period and your client can't redeem anyway. Man, you don't get it. When you have justice based on the truth, whatever happens will be better. And when you have a justice system that's based on the truth, then... And there is the truth. There are some defenses. It's not that open and shut a case. Those are the cases that are going to be cleared from your docket, because those are the cases that are going to be very expensive for the bank to litigate, and they're much better off settling those. And the plaintiff is actually not only screwing the homeowner, not only committing fraud upon the court, but they're actually committing a breach of fiduciary duty to the party who actually owns the note and mortgage. Because the party who owns the note and mortgage is going to be far better off with a restructured mortgage than they are going to be from whatever's left over from a sale of a foreclosed house that it doesn't have a washer, dryer, refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, and has been sitting there vacant for 3 years and has graffiti and mold and all that other crap.
And even if
nationwide, in foreclosure, the banks realize anywhere but the average between 45 and 55% of the fair market value of the property. Oftentimes, that's after a 2 to 3 year wait. The property sells. On a restructured, modified mortgage, they have 90 or 95% of the fair market value today, because the note and mortgage. Let me tell you something. A promissory note for $150,000 house, promissory note for $140,000 secured by a mortgage on a home worth $150,000. Those two pieces of paper are worth at least $140,000. Because that's what somebody gives you for them. And you know something? They wouldn't give you $140,000 for those two pieces of paper if they were worth only $140,000. Because the $140,000, you're going to pay about $450,000 over the life of a mortgage over 30 years. And it's secured by a house that's worth $150,000.
But it's only really worth that if people are paying it.
Most mortgages are paid off in 7 years because people resell the property. So you're going to get your full $140,000 back, and you're going to get interest for 7 years. That is worth on the open market more than $140,000. So if you force the bank to restructure the mortgage by a principal reduction, by listening to the defenses that the attorneys raise, you're going to clear your docket a hell of a lot faster than by just rubber stamping a bunch of foreclosures that are based on fraudulent forged evidence and insufficient evidence and gaps in the chain of title and contradictory evidence and everything else. 90% of the foreclosure judgments in the past 4 years have been defective. The homeowners have been wrongfully dispossessed of their homes.
Have questions?
That's 3.5 million American families
224-513-1231.
Most of those homes are still empty.
224-513-1231. We'll answer your questions.
Don't give up the land.
Welcome back to the Lou Brydges Show with Lou Brydges, one of Chicago's leading foreclosure defense attorneys. Here's Lou to tell you what to look for when hiring a foreclosure defense attorney and how to avoid being conned on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back. This is our last segment. I want to tell you some people's stories. I want to tell you about Brydges and Owen Associates because, it just has really struck me this week that the collection of people that have been brought together in what we're doing, and we all are so passionate and so believable in what we're doing. And, starting with my partner, Scott O., who I met one day, I saw arguing a motion in court. Now, you got to understand, after 33 years of the practice of law, I rarely listen to oral arguments in court. Even my own, I rarely listen to. And I listened, and all of a sudden I was captivated by the way he was presenting a very complex matter to the judge in a very understandable fashion. And the judge, who was skeptical at first, quickly turned in his favor, and he won the motion. And I went up and introduced myself, and I said, that was really good. And he had heard of me being, foreclosure defense. And and things so happen by fate. I never leave my briefcase in courtroom because I lost one when I was a very young attorney, and every time I hit the door, I think, do you have all your stuff with you? Go back and make sure, because I lost. And so anyway, for one reason, we were talking as we walked out the door, so I didn't have that reminder that I always use. And I left my briefcase in there. We had agreed to exchange phone numbers and everything, but that happens so often, and, you never do it. And because he was also talking to the clients. And so then I got to my car and I realized I had forgot my briefcase, and I went back in the office, and then his clients had gone, and we had time to actually sit down and get to know each other. And 9 months later, we're partners and put together this firm. We've got paralegals, we've got clerks, we've got research assistants, we've got associate attorneys, and, it's just everybody is, and now we're getting so big, we're getting new offices, and we'll have offices in Libertyville and Glenview, and we cover the 11-county Chicago area. Cook, DuPage, Will, Kane, Kendall, and we have a couple cases in Kendall.
A little bit of Wisconsin.
But mostly Lake and Will, and we have an attorney in Wisconsin that we work with who gets it. And obviously we can't practice in Wisconsin, but, their law is very much the same. So if you're anywhere in the, I guess it'd be 13-county Chicago area, and the people we have, it's just in the sort of not the twilight. I just turned 58, so I probably got another 10 to 15 years maybe. To work in this field. But, Scott, my partner, is a lot younger, and I'll probably, hopefully, eventually turn the firm over to him and everything, and go in like senior semi-retired status. But the people we have, starting, with our office manager, Miss Leonard, and the associate attorneys, Ron Nolan, who's just a great young attorney. This guy is going to be something someday, I'll tell you. And
he's already something now.
Yeah. I mean, he's good. He's really good. He's going to. This guy has just such a bright future. He is so dedicated and so intelligent and so diligent. I mean, he's just like, if you had to, of course, I'd probably, and then Christine Pruzak. I got to stop talking about Ron because his salary's coming up for review soon. So I don't want to have these words come back and haunt me. Well, no, we'll compensate him fairly. But that's the thing. We're not about, anybody who knows me and has heard me on the show is, I just feel that you use your talents and skills and abilities to help other people, and you're either going to make money or you're not. As it turns out, you often do, but it really doesn't matter, because if you use everything that you've got, all your blessings and skills and talents and abilities and opportunities, and you use that to help other people, at the end of the day, you're always going to have that going for you, and you won't have wasted a life. You waste all your life just chasing money, and at the end of the day, what do you got? Well, nothing, because the money's not even yours anymore. So you wasted a life.
And if you need our talents, it's 224-513-1231.
You've been listening to the weekly radio broadcast of the Lou Brydges Show with attorney Lou Brydges, telling the truth about foreclosure. Have you received threats of foreclosure? Are you in a foreclosure right now, seeking a loan modification, considering strategic default, or any other legal action? Know and protect your rights, and do not give up the land. Lou Brydges' passion is to help you keep your home and achieve your legal goals. To receive a free consultation, which may help you decide how to defend against foreclosure, understand your options, and learn what to look for in choosing a foreclosure defense attorney, call 224-513-1231. That's 224-513-1231. Or visit FightIllinoisForeclosures.com. That's FightIllinoisForeclosures.com. Get real answers from a real foreclosure defense firm and discover the legal tools at your disposal. Tune into AM 560 The Answer next Saturday morning at 8 for the Lou Brydges Show, telling the truth about foreclosure.